Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decided remakes or reboots should have happened. I'm Mike, as always. With me, I've got Alex. What's up, Alex?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Hey, we're missing Double D, which is unfortunate because this is a milestone episode. This is episode 75.
Holy shit.
We've been going for quite a bit, and that's pretty impressive when we only do this every other week. So 75, we're coming up on 4 years of the podcast, which is... 4 years of the podcast. I'm an idiot. We're coming up on 3 years of the podcast. We started in 2017, so 75 episodes, pretty great, and we decided to do something special. What are we going to be talking about, Alex?
All the cinematic Jokers.
Yeah, so we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally, we don't necessarily pick which version of the movie is better. We just, compare the two movies and just say, hey, did the remake have something new to offer? Was it worth watching kind of thing? We're going to do something a little bit different. This is going to be closer to the episode we did about a year ago, 2 years ago. I don't remember. We did it like 2 Novembers back, so 2 years ago. We did a Batman special where we went over all the different versions of Batman, and we kind of went Batman, the character, his villains, but we didn't necessarily go into any specific detail on the characters. But this time around, we're just going to talk about the 4 versions of the Joker that have been in the cinematic universe. We're not counting the Mark Hamill or Cesar Romero versions, because Mark Hamill, his version, between the cartoons, the animated movies, and the Arkham series he's almost untouchable. Yeah. And we want to keep it to the cinematic versions. And I know there was a Batman 1969 movie, or the 60s version of the Batman movie, but that was still based off a TV show, so we're not going to be including the Cesar Romero version. We're going to be talking about Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Jared Leto, and of course the new version with Joaquin Phoenix. So I'm interested to see what Alex thinks. I'm kind of going into this with 2 front runners. There's 2 versions that one I liked, but I don't think is really the Joker. And then there's one version I hated, and I'm pretty sure we'll both hate the same one. Do you have any front runners that you're kind of thinking about?
Yeah, I have 2 in mind. Actually, just recently, because I'd never seen the Batman 89 version till now. So.
What?
Yeah,
that's such a classic movie. I grew up on that movie. It's not really a kid's movie, but I definitively remember watching it when I was like 3 or 4 years old. It's not a kid's movie.
I missed it. Like it came out before I was born, and then I watched the sequel.
You watched Batman Returns?
Yeah.
How do you not go back then?
I don't know.
That's
never
crazy.
Yeah.
So how do you want to do this? Since this isn't a regular episode, do you kind of want to go in order?
Yeah, we can do order. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so since you haven't seen it until now, I'm gonna let you go first and kind of tell me your impressions of the Jack Nicholson Joker.
I liked him, actually. I was pretty shocked. So I grew up with the animated show more than anything else, and I can see where some traits have been taken off from Jack Nicholson for this Joker.
Oh, absolutely. They used the same theme song from Danny Elfman for the cartoon, and the kind of the visual style. They're very similar. Jokers to an extent. Obviously, this Joker died at the end of the movie. But...
yeah. But he's very comical. He's very chaos oriented, and I like all those things. I actually really ended up really enjoying Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I can see why people bring him up.
Still,
yeah.
I mean, when Heath Ledger was announced as the Joker, a lot of people were pissed. A lot of people just didn't see it. And what's funny is, obviously he is the Heath Ledger Joker, which we'll go into in a little bit. He's now iconic.
Yeah.
He is now the example that whenever somebody is cast in a movie and people aren't certain, people always bring up Heath Ledger like, hey, nobody thought Heath Ledger would be good. Let's give it a chance. So the same thing happened with Ben Affleck. Actually, with Batman with Robert Pattinson coming up, people are like, hey, nobody thought Heath Ledger would be good. Let's give it a shot. So Heath Ledger kind of changed the mentality of like fans just getting pissed for no reason to, hey, you maybe reserve judgment. So because the Jack Nicholson
like at that time,
iconic.
All he did was like, wasn't it just like a lot of teen?
He did
movies.
One teeny bopper movie, and that's the thing that I don't understand. So Heath Ledger was very big into having diverse roles and not doing the same thing more than once. So yeah, he got his big break with and at least his big American break with 10 Things I Hate About You. But then everything he did after that was different. So he did, The Patriot. He did Brokeback Mountain. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more that he did besides that, but those are like his biggest movies, and they're all very different films. So it's kind of weird that he had this mentality of this pretty boy, teeny bopper kind of thing, and that's exactly what he tried to not be. And a lot of people just thought the Jack Nicholson killed it. And Jack Nicholson, believe it or not, is the highest paid actor for a role. He was one of the first actors to kind of like take a cut of royalties, or of the percentage of box office. So he is still like I think the highest paid actor for a single like movie, based off how much this movie's been in syndication and all the different re-releases and whatnot. Right. So the Jack Nicholson one is kind of iconic, and it's kind of the role that. The casting was probably the most important casting in this movie, because Michael Keaton was not wanted for this role. A lot of people wrote letters to Warner Brothers, because before this movie, Michael Keaton was primarily a comedic actor as well.
Right.
Between like Beetlejuice, Johnny Dangerously, Mr. Mom, nobody really saw him as Batman. Also, he's not ripped or classically handsome or anything like that. Yeah. So people were really pissed, and then Tim Burton hadn't really done much before, so people were really hesitant to watch this movie. So Jack Nicholson really kind of made this movie. He kind of made it a real movie. People took it seriously because Jack Nicholson was in it. So he's one of the biggest actors in the world back then. So what were some of the things that you liked about his version coming as a newcomer?
That it's very cartoony. Like when he shoots down fucking Batman on the airplane, he pulls out this long ass revolver out of his pants. It's just things of that, like it knows it's not taking itself seriously. Those are like, I find refreshing, especially like.
Well, that's the thing, is that back then when this came out, it was taking itself seriously.
Was it really?
Yeah, this like in retrospect, this is campy. But back then, when you compare it to the Adam West Batman, this is really dark and brooding and serious compared to what people were used to.
Okay,
with like sense. The black rubber suit for Batman, and having these people killing people like Batman kills people in this movie. Joker obviously kills a ton of people.
He was ready to kill people. Joker. He was gonna throw him off.
He kills a bunch of Joker's henchmen. He kills a ton of people. He was totally ready to kill Joker. But anyway, one of the things that I really like about this Joker, and we'll have some themes kind of come around, but this Joker's probably the most comic booky in terms of like, he has like goofy gadgets, like he has like the teeth that come out, and when he gets hit in the mouth and they go da, 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 across the ground. He has like the fake hand when he's like hanging off the roof.
Here, and let me lend you a hand. It's all like jokes, you a hand, and it falls. Yeah.
He has the flower that shoots acid, and then he also has the Smilex gas, which is kind of
the Joker venom,
a staple of the Joker in the comic books, the cartoons, the Arkham games, where he has that gas that makes people go kind of crazy, and then die with a smile on their face. So that's something that honestly is so far is like the only out of the cinematic ones, the only person we have that does that. So that's something I really appreciate about him. And then you mentioned, the jokes. So, let me give you a hand. When the museum scene, which is one of the more iconic scenes from the Batman '89 movie, when he's, they're destroying all the art, and he's like, they're painting happy faces all over it. And then he sees that one painting. He's like, actually, I like that one. Like, there is that humor. He has his henchman, Bob the Goon, which was I had that action figure, just says Bob the Goon on it. That's what he's credited as. He's like, you're my number one guy. Like, there's just this charisma and this creepiness to him, and I like that he's a disfigured Joker, and not just that his skin is white, but he is stuck in a permanent grin because it's terrible plastic surgery, so he always has that smile. So there's some things about him that I really like. I also like, and this is something that I think him and Ledger kind of had, is this connection to Batman that we don't see in some of the other versions, where one of the big things with Batman and Joker is Batman doesn't kill, Joker wants him to kill, and they kind of have this thing where they're destined to meet over and over again for all of eternity, or until one of them actually die. And Jack Nicholson has this kind of thing where he has no real reason to go after Batman until, he sees him at the museum once, and then he's just kind of like, I know what my pain's name is, or I've put a name to my pain, and it is Batman. And just kind of hinting at that relationship that they're going to have. It's just going to go in perpetuity until one of them dies.
I didn't really feel that. Like, I felt their relationship wasn't, like, it was just more contrived because they wrote in that, like, we find out, oh, he's the cause of
the death. And then you have and they touch it a little bit, and I do agree that's a little contrived. But, for audiences at that time, and even until recently, actually even still in the Marvel movies, like even in both Spider-Man films, there has to be a connection to Tony Stark. In all the Tobey Maguire films, each villain had a personal tie to Batman. Each villain had a tie to Spider-Man. And every Marvel movie, with the exception of maybe the Ant-Man ones, there is a personal tie to the hero. So that's kind of a thing that's always been around, and it's just now starting to change. So it was a little contrived, but I get it. But I do like how they kind of talk about how the Joker goes, "You created me," and Batman goes, "Well, you created me." So there's this always going to be this loop of them interacting with each other. So yeah, it's a little contrived, but I think if the Joker didn't die, you can see this relationship as being something that they're always going to try to, butt heads, and if they're both alive, they're going to be going after each other. So it obviously the Joker died, so you couldn't see that, but I kind of could see that happening with this Joker.
Definitely. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah.
So I think we're going to go back and forth a lot. I think we should just kind of hit all of them.
Okay.
And then maybe pick some criteria and how we're going to like pick our favorite Joker. And my criteria can be different than your criteria. But I think maybe we should move on to Heath.
Okay.
Which I think we won't spend a ton of time on because everybody loves the Heath. So obviously I know you've seen this one, but I'm going to let you go and do your stuff first since I just talked a lot.
The thing I like about Heath Ledger's Joker, and it reiterated my love for him, is in the beginning sequence when he's doing the bank heist. He is you can see how cunning he is. So like he purposely like trying to get this goon to die. So the guy's like, "Is he out of shots?" And he's like, "Yes." Well, he just nods.
I wrote
yes.
that down too. He just nods. Yep.
And then the guy goes up, gets shot. I'm like, that's so smart. And then he's out of bullets, and it just shows that he's like constantly thinking steps ahead and things like that. And then the bus comes in,
and he's just able to manipulate situations.
Yeah, that's I think like a step that we don't see, at least I don't really see in the '89 version of Jack Nicholson Joker. Right. But that's what I like.
Kind of, because he did have his little plot of like destroying the city through makeup and putting the Smilex gas in different things and just having one product. He was going after the vanity because the Joker was very vain, even though Jack Nicholson's not a good-looking man. Jack Napier, the character he was playing, thought he was a very good-looking man. He was a very vain person, and he didn't like being around people better looking than him after he changed. So he put acid on his girlfriend's face, and then he put chemicals in each thing. So it's like if you just used hairspray, you'd be fine. But if you use hairspray and makeup and another thing, the combination kills. So he was going after vanity. So he did kind of have this master plan.
It's just, but it's just that though. It's just like a plan. Like the difference is that like we see Heath's Joker's able to imprompt, which is pretty.
He does, and there will be something to say with his plan. We'll just talk about his master planning for a little bit. So obviously he has that really elaborate bank heist where each bank robber kills the previous one, and then eventually one of them calls him on it, and he's like, "You're gonna kill me," and he goes, "No, I killed the bus driver." And then the bus driver backs in. Now that plan doesn't really make sense because there's no way that all those other school buses aren't concerned about a school bus driving out of a bank kind of thing. Like somebody would call that shit it, but whatever, it's a movie. But this kind of started a trend. It went from like this to Skyfall and like a bunch of other movies in the mid 2000s to even now with these like super elaborate plans. Even the Avengers had it as well. Those are kind of the big three. It's this one, Skyfall, and Avengers. The villain needs to get caught, and he has this whole plan that doesn't work unless he gets caught. But there's just like so many things that could go wrong, and everyone would have to do exactly what they thought. And how could he have known about them taking
That's the whole point, Mike.
Har-
It's so
right.
meticulous that they plan it down to the detail.
But how could he have known that Harvey Dent was going to turn himself in and take him and everything? And he says, I didn't think that was going to happen. So it's kind of a BS line, like him improvising, but there's no way he could have planned on Dent or Gordon not be like faking his death kind of thing. Like there's all these little things that don't really quite make sense, but on the, you know, when you watch the movie, it's a fucking incredible movie. But yeah, he obviously is very meticulous. And then what I like about this Joker is, and I think this thing that most people like, is he doesn't have a definitive origin.
Yeah.
Like, and this is something that's really big in the comic books, where, you know, there's three classic kind of stories where the Joker got his origin. One, he falls in the, you know, he has the red hood on, and then he gets stopped by Batman, he falls in the vat of chemicals. There's another one where he's just like a mob enforcer, like all these different things. And he even says, like, that's if I remember it right. I kind of wish my origin was multiple choice. So I like this where, you know, there's three different times where he tells people how he got these scars. And like and one of the times he's going to tell Batman, and then Batman's like, you know, I don't know how you got your scars, but I know how you got these. And he like shoots the, you know, the thing from his gauntlet into his face and then throws him. But yeah, I do like that aspect. What other things you want to talk about with Heath before we move on to the next Joker? Because I think we're gonna go back.
What I think
a lot. I think
what I liked about Joker, what my ideal version of Joker is someone that believes that we're all bad, and this is like very telling in the book The Killing Joke, where he believes that anyone with a bad day would become him. And that's what he tries to do with Commissioner Gordon in the comic, and that's what he tries to do with the two fairies, where he's proving like, hey, you know, if we push them enough, they're gonna do bad. And Batman's like, well, he believes in the good, and I think that's what this Joker definitely does, obviously in that plot. But that's what I like about the Joker.
Right, and the other thing that we kind of talked about with the Jack Nicholson, this one, the Joker explicitly says, like, I'm an unstoppable force, you're an immovable object. We're destined to do this again and again and again and again forever, which I think is great. And then to your point with the planning again, is the Joker, he says throughout the movie that he's not a planner. You know, Batman's a planner, Gordon's a planner, Harvey Dent's a planner. He's not a planner. When obviously he has all these very meticulous plots. Mm-hmm. He likes to think he's different than everybody else, even though he does a lot of the same things. Mm-hmm. But I forgot where I was going with this. What did I say before I started going on this little rant?
He's not a planner. You mentioned the Jack
Nicholson. Oh, no, I got it. I just saw my note. So he says all this stuff, like, you know, he's not a planner. Everyone else is a planner. But he clearly does ultimately care about the outcome. He acts like he doesn't care. He acts like he just wants to play with Batman. But at the end of the movie, when the boats don't blow up and he's talking to Batman, he's like, do you think I would risk the soul of Gotham in a fist fight with you? And, you know, and then he goes to blow up the boats and it doesn't work. You know, Batman stops him. He goes, yeah, but there's also fucking Harvey Dent, who I've corrupted. And if we corrupt him, then everything you guys did this whole movie basically falls apart, kind of thing. Mm. So he definitely is a schemer, even though he tries to act like he isn't.
Yeah,
So it's an interesting kind of
he's
like...
He's a
hipster. Well, I mean, he's a bit of a hypocrite. And this Joker is just... Like, when you look at the comic book Joker, he is just a crazy person. He doesn't... Like, even though he has meticulous plans and everything, he could, you know, just snap and decide he doesn't care about those plans and then undo his own plans. And in this version, he just is pure chaos in the comic books. This guy is pure chaos in that he's just anarchy. And that's all he wants is anarchy. He doesn't want rules. He doesn't want a government. And I think that ties into some of his like origin stuff. So what's also fascinating about this is he gives a couple origin stories, but the one that most people kind of believe is there's a point when he goes, you know, people don't freak out if it's part of the plan. If you know, say a gangbanger is going to get shot, nobody cares. If you say a busload of soldiers get killed, nobody freaks out because it's, you know, all part of the plan. Yeah. A lot of people thought that maybe this Joker was a soldier in Iraq or the Middle East, Afghanistan, who got blown up and left for dead or whatever, and then he came back and just hating the government. And then he even went to further length with Patton Oswalt saying not only was he a soldier, but he was also like somebody who did torture, and it was like And that's why he's able to, when he's getting tortured by Batman or interrogated by Batman, he's like, don't start with the head, makes them woozy, kind of thing like that. He knows how to torture people. So that's something that's fascinating. I think the most fascinating thing about this Joker is that there isn't a definitive version. I think
also if there is a definitive version, I feel like it kind of takes away from his persona,
right?
Because he's like kind of becomes like a mystical force of evil. Like you just don't know where he comes. Like seeing the Jaws monster, the shark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I kind of like. I really like about this.
I think what we should do is get over to Leto, and then we'll hit Joaquin Phoenix. Now, when we do Joaquin Phoenix, I think we'll do a little bit more of a movie review, because obviously we haven't talked about this movie. Okay. We've talked about the other versions when we did the Batman special. So let's get Leto, and then we'll kind of deep dive into the Phoenix version, and then we'll pick our definitive Jokers, and they may or may not match.
Okay.
So Leto, he's in like 7 minutes of Suicide Squad. What do you think about the Leto Joker?
I don't like it. I heard a theory that made me like it, where I heard it's
Can I guess what it is?
Oh, go ahead.
That he's Jason Todd?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me enjoy it a
like
little
that
bit
theory
more.
a lot.
Yeah.
Too. Because he has like the Robin tattoo.
The Robin
and
tattoo
he has the J on
and the
his
same
face.
bullet shots as the Robin suit, like holes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that probably was the plan. And when Zack Snyder was still running things, I think he thought he was being really clever and smart. And I think Warner Brothers just got a little upset that people figured it out, because I thought the same thing too. And then I started reading about it online, and obviously a lot of people have the same thoughts. Like, there's no original thoughts anymore. But I think that was probably the original case, because what's weird is I think Jared Leto and Ben Affleck are only like a year or two apart, but Jared Leto looks way younger than Ben Affleck does.
Yeah.
So I thought that was probably going to be the case, because, the Ben Affleck Batman's supposed to be pushing 50. He was supposed to have been Batman for, 20 to 30 years. So it would kind of make sense that, let's say you make Jared Leto, he could easily play like early 30s still.
Yeah.
If Batman was maybe 30 or 40 when he took on Leto, when he was 20, and now that's 10 years later, it would kind of make sense that maybe the original Joker fucked up Jason Todd, and then Batman killed the original Joker, and then Jason Todd became Joker. I like that. Unfortunately, we'll never know if that's going to be the case.
Get that answer, but yeah.
And the problem that I had with this one, besides the look, like obviously the look is dumb as fuck.
Definitely.
And I actually don't mind like the metal teeth, because it kind of makes sense.
It makes sense where he gets his teeth
even if he was
in.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't mind that, but it's all the tattoos and the damaged and stupid shit like that. They actually released some concept art a couple weeks back, and it showed that originally they were going to have ha 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 as his eyebrows.
Okay.
Which is just would be stupid as fuck. I think the biggest issue for me with the Jared Leto Joker is, what was the point? Like, he wasn't the villain of this movie.
No.
Like, if you took all of his stuff out, it doesn't change the movie at all.
And I heard that they cut out a lot of more stuff.
Yeah, apparently they cut out like 30, 40 minutes of his time, and they had a bunch of stuff, and Jared Leto was pissed. And you can actually, I went back and watched some of the stuff with the Joker, because I was desperately trying to avoid watching Suicide Squad, because it's not a good movie.
It's not.
So I tried to find supercuts, and with some of the supercuts, I also saw like they had clips of like Jared Leto talking, and then it was like a clip of the Joker. And when you watch his interviews before the Joker came out, or before Suicide Squad came out, he seemed very excited, and he was talking about how this is a force of nature, and it's unlike anything you've seen. And then after the movie came out, and he obviously saw it, and he saw that he only had like 6 or 7 minutes, he looks dead inside. Like, he doesn't look happy. Like, you can tell he's not happy. He's gone on to say that he felt misled. He was lied to get himself into the role.
Or there's like even recent articles saying that he tried getting this recent Joker movie canceled.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is what's funny is and we'll talk a little bit more about it when we talk about Joaquin Phoenix, but when the Joaquin Phoenix movie was announced, I didn't see the point, because I was like, wait, we're going to get a Harley Joker movie. They've already announced a standalone Joker movie with Jared Leto. Why? Why are we getting this standalone one in the 80s? And this was obviously announced before DC backpedal. So you know what? We're not going to do another Justice League movie. We're going to have standalone movies now.
I was excited because I thought it was just fulfilling that theory of
right. Which could be cool, but then they made a point of saying that it wasn't that.
No, it's standalone, and it got me sad.
And I don't get it. And there's certain things about this Joker, and I liked having a Harley Quinn because we hadn't got that. And there was apparently like there was a point where they had if Heath Ledger hadn't died, he would have appeared in Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. And there were rumors that there was going to be Harley Quinn. I heard rumors that it was going to be Sarah Michelle Gellar. I even saw some concept art and everything. So I was like, okay, that could be kind of cool. And I like the idea of Joker having this follower that's fucked up, that he's corrupted. And I don't get me wrong, I think Margot Robbie's great as Harley Quinn. I just don't think Suicide Squad was very good. And that wasn't her. And I liked some of the stuff they had with him and her, like when you see her in the classic costume. Oh, yeah. But one of the biggest things I had.
Yeah, it's.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Joker doesn't love in the conventional sense. And you see it all the time in like, oh, I want a relationship like Joker and Harley. Why? It's super abusive, both directions. But what I didn't get is this version of the Joker seemed to actually love Harley to the point where he would like, his subplot was just following her and trying to rescue her, which I don't feel is like a Joker. Is not how the Joker would handle it. And like the scene where he's interacting with Common at that club, I think it would have made sense if Common actually did go and hit on her or something, or grabbed her, and then, you know, maybe the Joker killed her out of jealousy. But the weird like offering her up and then like, do you have beef? I don't have beef. You have beef? Like, it was just weird. I don't get it.
I think they're just trying to show that he's a loose cannon and that like
right. And he just having him be like a gangbanger. Like, I just don't get it. And I don't think this was, I don't think the performance was necessarily bad. I think it was bad editing. Like when he's converting Harley and he's like giving her the electroshock therapy and he's like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to really, really hurt you. Like it seemed like he wasn't doing enough to differentiate himself from Heath Ledger, because Heath Ledger had the ups and downs, which we didn't really talk about, but I felt like he was doing like Heath Ledger light.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it wasn't a bad performance, but it wasn't good.
It's just I don't know. There's like moments where the hand, like there's just questionable things. Like why did they make the choices where he puts his hand over it and it's just a little smile? I'm like, that's dumb.
Oh yeah, and then his Joker laugh is just like it's almost like the Count from Sesame Street.
Exactly.
Like, I just don't get it. And once again, what was the point? And he was so much a part of all the promotion leading up to the movie, and then to see that he's barely in it and made no bearing to the plot of the film.
They really should have made him the villain of Suicide Squad.
That would have made the most sense, is having him do some big city, and still maybe the whole plot revolved around him really trying to get Harley out of prison. But he does something to take on the city. Maybe he does the Smilex gas or whatever. Like, but he does something that requires the Suicide Squad, but it's really just a front to get Harley out. Cool, I would buy that. But like, yeah, he should have been the villain.
Because like, I think there's like a animated film that has like a similar plot, except Joker is the villain. And I thought that it felt like they were going to do that storyline, but it was just, I don't know. The Enchantress just wasn't that great of. I don't think she held the movie at all. Gyrating.
Who?
The Enchantress.
Oh yeah, it's the movie in general, it was just bad. So I tried to get the Jared Leto performance out of just watching the supercut, but all the supercuts I found literally just was him, and they cut out the people talking to him, so you couldn't really see what it was going on. So I ended up watching about half the Suicide. That's all I could do. I could watch half the Suicide Squad, and that was it. But it was bad. Like, it's just a bad movie, and I don't think it's any of the actors' fault. I just think there was no clear vision on what was gonna happen.
Do you really feel like it is because of like David Ayer's vision of Suicide Squad, or like?
I think it was a lack of, like, I read that like they had the script and then they would change it on the day of, and I also think so much of this was overshadowed by his antics off the screen, because we heard about, you know, Jared Leto like sending people used condoms and sending Deadshot or Will Smith a bunch of bullets, and then sending somebody like a dead animal. Like, it was just like weird shit. And then that would have been interesting if it was something like that, and then you got like a Heath Ledger level of performance.
Yeah.
kind of thing, or even that amount of screen time, so you can just, but like what we got does not warrant that weird fucking behavior.
It just makes him look like a dick.
Yeah, it does. All right, so I think we should get over to the Joaquin Phoenix one.
Right.
We'll go into a little bit more on like the plot on this one, because obviously we haven't talked about it, and it's a little bit newer. It hasn't been talked to death yet, like the Heath Ledger version. But what did you think of the movie overall?
I liked it. I liked it. I'll leave it at that for now.
I liked it. I didn't love it, but what's interesting, like Katrina, she fucking loved it. She says it's a masterpiece.
I wouldn't go that far.
I disagree that it's a masterpiece. Now, I think it was a happy accident. I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance, and I think the score was fantastic.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think also he said that he played the score while filming it. So it's very different. So then, like, the actors.
Oh, interesting! I didn't hear that.
Yeah, they get.
But yeah, the score. I remember there were certain points, like, it's interesting because they say like a good score is something you don't notice until you've seen it as repeat viewings. This time around, there was times where I was watching it and I was like, and it was getting kind of tense, and I'm like, man, this is really tense. But like, I don't think the plot was anything. Special. I think it was one of the most predictable movies I've ever seen. I'd stop and pull myself out and go, what is it making me feel this tense and my heart rate elevating? And then I hear this, like, the shrill sounds and then the percussive kind of thing. Like, the score was incredible. Like, it's probably I think the score is what saved this movie for me.
Score. Joaquin Phoenix is definitely the highlight. The one that, like, I was just more invested in his performance, and I do agree 100% that the story is very predictable, and like that twist that happens and all that.
Well, all the different twists, but I don't think there's anything. And part of the other thing it's an advantage and disadvantage in some ways is I follow the productions of movies, and I'm blanking on his name right now.
Todd Phillips,
the director.
Todd Phillips.
Yes, thank you. Todd Phillips. He only did this movie because he says comedy is dead. You can't make a comedy anymore. And I disagree. Yeah. It's just not true.
You just can't do
he did
hangover
3
comedy.
Hangover movies that were identical. Kind of thing. Like, you just can't. And like, the humor in The Hangover is not much different than the humor style as Old School, which is another one of his movies. You can have a funny movie that's offensive. Like, if you go back to just last year, Game Night was hilarious, and there is it's pretty offensive and pretty over the top and violent and everything, but it's hilarious. Tag, super offensive at certain points, but it is hilarious, and it's because these movies were unique. You look at Deadpool. Deadpool is super offensive, super violent, super raunchy, gory, but it is hilarious. And up until this movie, the highest grossing rated R film of all time until this Joker movie. So you could absolutely have something offensive and something funny and something just like that. You just have to, people want something unique. They don't want the same damn thing over and over again. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with Todd Phillips. He kind of begrudgingly did this movie, but he also like fought Warner Brothers for a while. Like, there was some passion to it, but it also felt like he just felt like he had to do something, which I can get as an artist. But this movie is so contrived. Like, it's so much Taxi Driver and so much King of Comedy that the movie was, like I said, one of the most predictable films I've ever seen. We can spoil it. Like, there was never a moment where I thought Zazie Beetz was actually his girlfriend.
I was like thinking to myself, I kind of pulled myself out of it because I was like, oh, there's not a lot of scenes with her. How's that? Well,
the thing is, you look at their first date when like she goes to his comedy show, which obviously she wasn't there. You see the audience not laughing. And you see her laughing, and it's just like, it doesn't make sense. And then by the end of it, you start seeing him see them laughing. That just wasn't the case. So it was so obvious that he was imagining that. And then, there's just, like you said, there's not a lot of her. And like other key moments when he got fired or when he's finding things out about his mom, those are things you go to your girlfriend to talk about. And she was just not there. So it just didn't make sense. And then the whole, killing Robert De Niro's character at the end. I never believed that he was going to commit suicide. on screen. Like,
No.
the movie made you think there's going to... They did all these things that they thought was smart and clever and was going to throw people off, but I don't think anything was an actual twist.
No.
And I brought that up with Katrina, and she goes, well, no, I think they did that on purpose. I think that's what was effective about this movie is because we've seen so many, like, crazy white people on the news that we knew what he was going to do this whole time, and there's just nothing we can do to stop it, which I kind of... I would get that, but there's definitely some Easter eggs in this movie, referring to a bunch of the different Jokers. But Todd Phillips said there were no Easter eggs in these movies, so I don't think he really understood what his writers and his set decorators and his costumers were doing if he says there's no Easter eggs. So I think this was a happy little accident, this movie being as good as it was.
I believe that. There's also a weird thing where having... I don't know how you feel about this, but we're having the Joker as the protagonist is... Like, am I supposed to root for him? And I feel like
right. Well,
they don't push him far enough to become the Joker because there's like a scene.
Right. Well, and I don't feel like he actually is the Joker. I kind of feel like he's like a proto Joker.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I felt. And then now Todd Phillips agrees and he said, well, maybe this is the guy who inspired Joker. Well, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Why are we watching this? Why are we calling it the Joker when he's not the actual Joker? And even if he was the Joker, dude, he wasn't. Like we kind of talked about, the Joker is a mastermind. He can plan these, elaborate things.
And this guy just kind of stumbles onto his thing, like he stumbled in killing those guys. It wasn't like if he planned it out and killed those three somehow, and to cause like
those three,
or like he caused that anarchy on purpose. I'll be like, oh shit, that's something the Joker would have done.
I don't even care about that. Like even if he killed those three guys in self-defense initially, and then he starts seeing that people are starting to get crazy, and then he decides to stir the pot or whatever, or even if he doesn't do that, whatever. But my thing is like him escaping the cops was entirely by accident.
He just
ran around, and then he just happened to get on a train
full of clowns.
Right. Now, the one thing I would say I really like about this movie, and there's many layers to this, but there's so many things besides the Zazie Beetz thing that could have possibly not happened, or not happened the way we think they happened. So obviously the movie ends with him in an insane asylum, so it's like potentially maybe the whole movie didn't happen.
Yeah.
But even let's say the whole movie did happen, and we just don't see how, because we don't see how he got to the insane asylum, and he's just laughing, and the therapist goes, why are you laughing? He goes, you wouldn't get it. So, that could be that this whole thing didn't happen. But let's say that most of the movie happened. One of the things that I really liked was one of the clowns gives him a gun at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, he says something along the lines, like, because he brings the gun to the school, or not the school, the child's hospital. He tells the boss that the guy gave it to him. And then later on, the boss goes, well, so-and-so told me that you tried to buy a gun from him.
Yeah.
And then the guy who gave him the gun comes up and he's like, dude, why are you telling people that I gave you a gun? So it's entirely possible that, Arthur Fleck went and got a gun somewhere else and then just made this memory up of the guy giving it to him. And so the guy literally is shocked when he goes, dude, why are you telling people I gave you a gun? Like, it's very possible that never happened.
Well, no, doesn't he go back to him in the apartment scene and he's like trying to like clear things up with him?
Yeah, I mean, but once again, he's an unreliable narrator, so you don't really know. But I like that even before that scene, like, when you find out that somebody else told the boss that Arthur Fleck was looking to buy a gun, and then all of a sudden, like, this guy just gives him a gun, like, it seems a little far-fetched. So it is entirely possible that guy didn't actually give him a gun.
Yeah.
Even though we saw it happen.
I can see that. That's interesting.
And everything. So it's things like that. The whole thing with, like, obviously we saw him hallucinate him going on the Robert Murray show, or whatever his name was, Robert De Niro's character was.
Yeah.
There's something Murray.
Yeah, Murray.
He hallucinates going on that show at the beginning, so you can see that he makes up all these things. But the whole thing with Thomas Wayne being the father, that was one thing I didn't like about the movie, was Thomas Wayne was such a dick, because Thomas Wayne is like an angel in every version. He's like, but once again, maybe that's just because the Joker or Arthur Fleck imagined him being an asshole, but he really wasn't an asshole.
I guess. I feel like it's just the fact that we have to assume this is giving the movie too much credit.
Right. And once again, I do agree that this could be, and I think that might be by design, that you can question everything, and they made a movie that you're going to question. But I think the things that you obviously are set up to question is Zazie Beetz, but I think the gun thing, I think, is definitely something you can question.
Yeah.
But overall, like, the performance was amazing. Like, and that's what you expect from Joaquin Phoenix. You don't expect anything short of amazing from him at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think any of the other actors really had much to do. I did like the little person. I thought he was really good in his interactions. I did like that chain on the door.
That was really scary, but then it wasn't the result I was expecting.
I'm glad it went that way, and that was like the one thing I didn't guess was, I thought, I'm like, oh, he's gonna end up killing the little person too, 'cause he's crazy.
I thought he planned it and just to show that he's like also like it was gonna show he's one step ahead, because there's a scene where it's kind of like a good frame shot where he locks it, so you think that's gonna be put into play, but it just ends up there's an accident, which is a common theme with him.
I don't think he was. Yeah, I don't think he was the Joker, and if he's not, what's the point? If he is the proto Joker, and if he is, do you really see this Joker being somebody capable of taking on the Bat?
No.
No, I don't. So I got to tell you guys, or our listeners, like a crazy thing that happened when Katrina and I went and watched this movie. So a lot of people were concerned that this was gonna create mass shootings, and there were some credible threats out across the country. Thank God no actual shootings happened. But in Los Angeles, in Manhattan Beach, they actually did like kick somebody out who got up and started like screaming in the theater, and they kicked the guy out. There was extra security across the country in big cities. Mm-hmm. But when Katrina and I went and watched the movie, there was this woman sitting immediately to my left. Katrina was on my right. And she was quiet during the whole trailer. Like, she just sat there. And then literally as soon as the movie starts, she starts talking. And I'm like, so I look over at her. I'm like, hey, excuse me, the movie started. Super nice, Mm-hmm. And she kind of looked at me, and like I can see her face, and she looked like she had some empathy, and she realized she gone and fucked up. And she starts to apologize. I'm like, okay, cool. She goes, I'm sorry. And then she like flips, and she's like, shh, 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 shh. She goes, you don't have to be so rude about it. I get it. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, I'm not going to like confront her about being a fucking crazy person. So the rest of the movie, she's quiet. She's like kicking her feet around like she's like Lord of the Dance, but she's being quiet.
Lord of the Dance.
She's laughing at parts that are inappropriate to laugh at. But she's quiet, right? So towards the end of the movie, like the last 5 minutes, like when it's all the riots, just before the Waynes get killed, which I didn't need to see again, but whatever. The projector shuts off. And the screen's black, but the sound is still going. But it was right when like the car got hit, so I thought, oh, maybe
it's part of the movie.
The Joker hit his head, and he's waking up to this noise, and you're hearing explosions and gunshots and everything. So initially, the theater thinks, hey, this is part of the movie. But then it goes on for a little too long, and then all of a sudden, at the dead center of the screen, at the front row, flashlight turns on, and then people start screaming at the front of the theater. We're like, oh fuck, like. We're the theater where there's actually a shooting going to happen. So it was fucking terrifying. Like, people were screaming, people were climbing over seats, people were ducking behind seats, people were running out the exits. And then you start seeing more lights pop up. And then after, this goes on for about 30 seconds or so, people are like legitimately freaking out, thinking that we're going to get shot. And then as more people's like turn on, like as nothing starts to happen, people turn on their cell phone lights, and people start, getting back in their seats. And all of a sudden this bitch to the left of me, who's like talking at the beginning of the movie, gets up, like jumps out of her seat, like her leg swings over the armrest, almost hits me, and then she lands on the floor. She gets in Katrina's face. She's like, you fucking bitch, you fucking cunt, you fucking shush me, I'll fucking kill you. And I'm like, first off, I'm the one who shushed her, not Katrina. But she gets in Katrina's face, so with a strength that I did not realize I had, I put my left arm on her, and I swing her, and I put her back in her seat. And then she just sits down and watches them, and then the projector kicks on immediately, and then we see the Waynes get shot. And then the movie ends, and it was fucking weird. It was really fucking creepy because, like, the whole time, for like the 15 seconds or so that we thought, maybe there was a shooting going on, Katrina's like, stay down, Mike, stay down. And I'm like, have my hand on Katrina, and I'm like, kind of keeping my head on a swivel, just in case there is a shooter and they come up to our row. The new thing that people are being told is you hide, you fight, you flight, kind of thing. So if they get up to you. Now what they're saying you're supposed to do is get as many people swarming them because they're less likely to fire if they can actually see the look of fear on the person's eyes. And also if you can, get a couple people on them, they can't fire anymore. So I'm ready to like jump on somebody. So my heart's racing. And then this woman, like I've got this adrenaline, and then this woman gets in my wife's face, and I literally just like move this woman with one arm. I was very impressed with myself.
You're a superhero.
No. But it was kind of a traumatic viewing. And Katrina's like, yeah, even with that, it was still an amazing experience at the movies. Like, she loved it, and I'm glad she did. I think it was a happy little accident. I don't think I'll go back to this movie anytime soon.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are saying this is their new favorite Joker, and I don't think he's my favorite.
I disagree.
I think it's an amazing performance, but I don't think he's the Joker.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't see him. He's not my Joker, essentially. So yeah.
Hashtag not my Joker. All right. So I think I'm going to pick my Joker. I'm torn between, I think we're on the same two, Heath and Nicholson. Are those your two front runners?
Heath and Jack.
So I think maybe we set some criteria. Like, I think being accurate to the comic book requires some degree of measurement. I think just the look and the humor, I'm so torn. Like, who do you give it to?
I gotta give it to my boy Heath. I got it.
Heath is so good.
He is really good.
He's so good, and it's hard not to go for him immediately because I watched The Dark Knight in IMAX last year for the 10-year anniversary, and watching it in IMAX was like seeing it again for the first time.
Ooh.
And the music, and I think another thing, this is another one where Hans Zimmer's score really makes a big difference. So like anytime the Joker's plot is going, whether it's on the boat or if he's doing like the pencil trick, and you just hear like the really shrill like strings, like everything is just really at play. The lighting, everything. I don't know if I can give it to him. Like, I'm so torn because his performance is incredible, and I gotta say, his licking of the lips, his mannerisms, the way he moves, like that when in that scene where he like gets the truck flipped and he kind of uses the gun as a crutch and he's stumbling around when he is being interrogated by Batman, and Batman's like, "Why do you want to kill me?" And he's like, "I don't want to kill you. You complete me. You're like, I wouldn't know what I would do without you. I'm like a dog chasing carts." And he does this thing with his hands, and his face gets all big, and his voice is high, and then his like, but his voice also gets like really low and guttural. Like, it's just. There's something about it, and I definitely think he deserved the Oscar that he got after the fact. But I also think he deserves it for being able to seriously say "hello, beautiful" to Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Wow.
But the other thing I really like is one of the things I mentioned I liked about Jack Nicholson was his gadgets. And while this Joker doesn't necessarily have gadgets per se, like he does have his, explosives. I do like how he had like the grenade that he stuck in the bank manager's mouth.
Yeah, and it turned out to be
it was
smoke, which is very.
It was a smoke bomb. Well, the whole point of that was to get the smoke bomb would make everybody start coughing, and they would let go of their grenades, and the bank would blow up. But what I liked about it was not only that aspect, but he had it tied, the pin tied to his jacket. As he's walking, you see the jacket unraveling. Which I thought was kind of funny. And then also when he goes and confronts like all the mob, he opens up his jacket and he's got a bunch of grenades, and they all have strings. They're all tied to like one big string that he's going to yank, and he can pull off all those grenades. So it's like, it's not necessarily like a fake hand. It's an acid spraying flower or anything like that, but he does kind of like make his own little
There's some
gadgets.
cartoony aspect to it.
Right. And then like, I like when he goes to get Gamble, and he pretends to be dead, and then to get one of they've got the two henchmen, and he goes, "We're always available for aggressive expansion. Which one do you want to join our team? We're having tryouts." Like, he just goes low then high, like these guttural growls and
inflections.
I'm a man of my word. Like, it's just his inflection. There's something for that, and I think his delivery is closest to the Mark Hamill, and like it's so hard. Like, Mark Hamill, I think, is the definitive Joker.
Oh, most definitely.
And I think Heath Ledger, with his inflection and his voice, gets close to that. But the Jack Nicholson is the most comic booky. Like, he looks like the comic book Joker did at that time. He's funny. He's got the gadgets. He's got the smarts. Like, I see him as a foil to Batman. And I think it's hard to just. And I rewatched Batman '89 like 2 years ago when we did the Batman special, and I watched it again a couple nights ago. And there's something about that Joker that's just great. And I don't know if I can just say that Heath Ledger is the better Joker.
It's, I don't know. It could be that, like, it's just because I just watched it recently, but like I don't have I see the points that you make. Like, he is definitely, if I was to, like, if someone's to throw a comic book onto the screen, I'm like, oh shit, that's like a cartoon turned to life.
I think we're
of Joker.
I think where Heath gets me is the voice, because he's doing something different, and then the whole like bringing the city down to its knees and getting Batman to almost break his one rule. And I guess like that's what it comes down to is the Joker is always somebody who almost gets Batman to break who he is and change who he is. And Jack Nicholson didn't do that with Batman, because this Batman is a killer. Like, he throws people down the well, or the well, down the stairwell. He also, like, at the beginning of the movie when he like stops those muggers, he just lets the muggers go. It's like, hey, tell people who I am, but like doesn't get the money back to the victims or anything like that.
I'm Batman. I'm like, you didn't tie him up.
And that Batman gets shot every chance he can.
Oh yeah, he definitely always gets shot. I like how he turns though. You gotta say like full body turn to look what he's looked. It's like RoboCop.
I guess we have to give it to Heath just because of that aspect, but like, God, it's so hard to say that.
You
like,
think so? Are you saying it's more like just because of like if Jack Nicholson Joker was in the Nolan Batman, do you think like he would have pushed Batman to the edge?
I think he could have. I would have loved for Joker not to have been killed and to see him continue on. And the Joker cartoon is supposed to loosely be based on, like, the cartoon is loosely based off the movies. Obviously, it's more kid-friendly and everything like that, but they borrow a lot of elements, like the Batmobile. Yeah. It being a little bit darker. I'm torn. I really like Jack Nicholson. I really like him in that role, but I don't think he does anything different. Like, he's not that much different, but his, like, laugh when he does do the Joker
his
laugh
is good. It's good. I'll give you that. The laugh is definitely good.
I think I'm going to go with Nicholson only because I don't watch that movie all the time. I go back to the 1989 Batman maybe once every 5 to 10 years. Like, since I was a kid, like, since the Nolan movies have come out, I've maybe watched that movie 3 times. But every time I go back to it, I think Nicholson surprises me. Like, I think I underestimate it every time I go back to it.
I'll give you that. It's not that I underestimate, because like I knew people were talking about Jack Nicholson, and I was like, okay, like how good is he really? Like, I think Keith is pretty good. I did watch it, and I was like, I'm actually surprised. Like, this is pretty good. Like, if I just had Jack Nicholson Joker, I would be okay with life. Like, it's
right.
Yeah.
I think if I had to go back and say which one would I want to see another movie from, I think it would be Jack Nicholson. Because I think that Joker, the Heath Ledger Joker, did what he set out to do. And I just don't see at that point, like, even though he says we would be battling again and again and again and forever.
I guess it would be more of the same. And then the Jack Nicholson,
it would be more of the
Joker,
same. I would like to see the Jack Nicholson go, okay,
yeah,
like, if you survive and see him evolve. Like, I think that's the person I'd want to see another one.
All right, I'll give you that. Jack Nicholson Joker.
All right. So Double D wasn't able to record. He had some family stuff he had to take care of. So just like the last episode, Let the Right One In, I was very sick. So I ended up just recording, like 6 or 7 minutes of what I thought about the two movies. Basically did a mini remake rewind with just me in about 6 or 7 minutes and tacked it on to the end. So check that out. But check out Double D's thing. He's gonna record something. He's gonna send it to me. I'll tack it on the end of this episode, and we'll see what he thinks. I have a feeling he'll probably go with Heath. But I'd be interested to see if he goes my way and votes for Mr. Jack Nicholson. But this was 75 episodes. That's great.
Crazy.
Keep listening. Remake Rewind is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you want to support the show, you can support us on patreon.com/MDXpods. And that's it. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, sorry I wasn't able to join Mike and Alex in arguing about who was the best Joker here, but I definitely did want to put my 2 cents in if I could. Obviously, we talked about Jack Nicholson, we had talked about Jared Leto, and we had the new Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger, right? So my take on these, so I mean, honestly, I think they're all victims to the part in the movie they played. So I think it's a little bit different. It's hard to grade these on ranking of best, right? They all did great jobs in the movie that they were set for, except for Jared Leto, because that movie was terrible and that Joker is terrible. So I'm not even going to talk about Jared Leto, because that for me was a disappointment. I mean, the whole setup of Suicide Squad was supposed to be Harley and Joker for me. I mean, I think that was the big allure to it, and a lot more Joker. But we barely got enough Joker in there, and the Joker that we did see was just weird. And it's just not. It's a new take on the Joker, I guess, but it just did not do it for me. So I was not a fan of that at all. Going back to the 1989 Jack Nicholson Joker, that honestly for me is probably one of the best Jokers there is around. Honorable mention, Mark Hamill. I think he's the best ever. But Jack Nicholson did a great Joker. I think that whole ensemble of that Joker was really embodied the comic version of it. You had the ups and downs, you had the craziness, you had the fun. The only thing I didn't like was his human counterpart, I guess, where he puts the skin colored makeup on over his makeup, which is kind of weird. But I guess that puts a new level to that Joker too, that Jack Napier role. We have the Heath Ledger role, which is part of the Dark Knight, and like I said, he's a victim to that, right? So it's a very dark Joker. But he played it amazingly, and honestly, I think acting wise, I could really see this being the best Joker. And I think Heath Ledger did an amazing job, and it's hard to discredit that at all. I just think that the Joker that I know out for the comics, honestly, needs a little bit of a lighter side to him, more jokey tone. And then you have the new Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Wow. I think I said it in the earlier podcast, but this was a tough movie to watch. Just like, it was a fantastic movie. It was really well done. It was really well played. It was just very unsettling, and I think that's what they were going for all overall. And Joaquin Phoenix did a fantastic job with that origin story of Joker, which honestly I think takes away from Joker a little bit. I think the lure of Joker is that he is a mystery man and he's so unexplicable, you know what I mean? But Joaquin Phoenix did a great job with it, and I really like what he did there, and he got what he was going for. But honestly, overall, I think either Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson takes the cake here. I'm going to go Jack Nicholson just because he has the range of Joker that I'm looking for. Jack Nicholson had the jokes, the funny, the arrogance, I guess, but also the dark side of him. Whereas Heath Ledger, he has a little bit of the joking tone, but there's no light to it. There's no funny jokes, if you know what I mean. But overall, definitely worth watching. All of the Jokers, except Jared Leto. Don't watch Suicide Squad again. Thanks, guys. Take care.
And there you have it. With Double D's vote, we have named the definitive clown prince of crime, the #1 Joker, the definitive version of Joker in the cinematic universe. Thus far, of course, we know we're going to get another one. If that Robert Pattinson Batman movie does well, we'll eventually get another Joker. But definitively, as of right now, per the MDXpods crew, Jack Nicholson is the best Joker. It was a little touch and go. Thought it was going to be Heath Ledger. I thought for sure Double D was going to be talking about Heath Ledger. Got Alex to kind of go with Jack Nicholson towards the end, admitting that that's the one that would probably be a better sequel, or seeing him again would be a little bit better beneficial. So Jack Nicholson, the original cinematic Joker, is still the clown prince of crime. Way to go, Jack. You've done good, kid. Just a little bit of bookkeeping. This was episode 75, so thank you guys for listening. We do have the holidays coming up. I'm not going to tell you where the other guys work, but they work retail, and it's going to be getting to their busy season, so we're going to be doing a couple different things. Our next episode's going to be a Terminator special. Another one that's a little bit different. It's kind of like a soft reboot, but we're going to do Terminator 3 and Terminator Dark Fate, because they're both the third movie in the franchise when you look at canon and chronologically and however you want to look at it. But yeah, we're going to cover those two and talk about Terminator. I know Alex is definitely excited about that. After that episode, Double D and Alex will probably take an episode or two off like they did last year. Katrina and I will be covering Charlie's Angels. Whatever episode we do after that, I will find some sort of guest host to kind of step in and help me out. And then Double D and Alex should be back, and it will be business as usual. I also want to announce that Ruin My Childhood's coming back. Katrina and I did take a little bit of time off from that one. We had a ton of stuff going on, both just mentally, physically, professionally, medically. We had a bunch of stuff going on, so we decided to take a little bit of a break from Ruin My Childhood, but that will be back hopefully next week after this episode airs. We're going to try to get an episode out. We might not reach out and do the social media, call to action, tell us what you remember that first episode. We may just go back to a classic style for an episode because we really want to get something out, but look forward to that. And thanks for listening, guys. Check us out on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at MDXpods. Once again, support the show over at patreon.com/MDXpods. And thanks for listening, guys. Bye.